Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to dive right into the radical, completely bottom-up origins of the modern university. We're about to uncover a piece of history that, quite frankly, flips our entire modern understanding of academic power dynamics completely on its head. So if you think you know who actually holds the cards in higher education, you might want to prepare to have your perspective entirely shifted. All right, let's dive into this. Just picture this for a second. Imagine in the academic world where you, the student, hold all the leverage. You do the hiring, you do the firing. And yes, you literally dictate the terms of your professor's employment. Let's say your professor shows up 5 minutes late to a lecture. Well, you dock their pay. I mean, it sounds like some kind of wild modern student fantasy, doesn't it? But as we'll see today, this was the absolute reality at the very dawn of higher education. Section 1. The ultimate student power. So, to truly wrap our heads around this inverted dynamic, we have to travel back in time to 1088 CE and look at the first ever university in continuous operation anywhere in the world. Now, today's institutions are basically built on a top-down master's university model, right? The administrators and the faculty hold the power, they set the rules, and they grant the degrees. But the University of Bologna over in Italy pioneered a student university model. This setup gave wealthy foreign students ultimate control over their own education and really the institution itself. It was an entirely bottom-up approach to scholarship. Section 2. Rediscovering the Roman Codex. You might be wondering what actually sparked this massive shift. Well, in the late 11th century, right around 1088 CE, a comprehensive Roman law compilation, originally put together by the ancient emperor Justinian, was rediscovered. Famous jurists, like a scholar named Irnerius, began teaching it, and this created this intense, immediate demand for legal education all across Europe. The idea spread like wildfire. By around 1150 CE, these students were heavily organizing themselves, and by 1158 CE, their collective power was so undeniable that the Holy Roman Emperor himself, Frederick I, officially granted them special privileges. And the text they were all flocking to study, it was Justinian's Corpus Juris Civilis, which is often just called the Codex. This document really illustrates why Bologna exploded in popularity. See, this codex offered incredibly sophisticated legal concepts that were just absolutely perfect for navigating the highly complex commercial and political life of medieval Italy. It was practically the ultimate legal blueprint, and it drew eager scholars from every single corner of Europe who wanted to master it. Section 3. Foreigners in a strange land. But here's the catch. Traveling all the way to Bologna to study this legal masterpiece came with extreme personal and financial risks. Because these scholars were foreigners, they didn't have the legal rights or the basic protections of the local Bologna citizens. That meant they essentially had zero civic standing, so they were regularly subjected to arbitrary civil punishments, and they were extremely vulnerable to severe price gouging by local landlords for a simple bed and by merchants for their textbooks. Sure, they were wealthy, but they were entirely unprotected targets in a foreign city. Section 4. The Universitas Scholarium. To survive this hostile, honestly predatory environment, the students quickly realized something vital. Their individual wealth meant absolutely nothing without collective bargaining power. So, if we strip away all of our modern academic baggage about what a university is, the original Universitas Scholarium was practically a gritty labor guild. It was a self-governing corporation of scholars who banded together purely to protect student interests and ensure their mutual defense against the city. And this turned into an unstoppable force, basically, in 3 steps. First off, the students grouped themselves into geographic nations, or nekiations, based on where they were originally from. Step 2, they pooled their resources together and officially formalized this Universitas Scholarium. And step 3, using their combined numbers and their combined wealth, they collectively negotiated civic protections and fair prices directly with the city. By organizing this way, they established a massive legal entity with immense negotiating leverage. Section 5. When students bossed professors. Now this is where it gets really wild. This newly formed student corporation didn't just fight City Hall. They turned their organized power inward and completely dominated their own professors. The Student Guild was the actual legal entity that hired famous scholars like Irnerius, and they paid the professors' salaries directly out of their pooled student fees. So, if a professor was late to class, or skipped over a difficult passage in the codex, or even tried to leave the city without asking permission, they were penalized. The students enforced incredibly strict contracts, docking their pay or withholding fees entirely. They demanded academic rigor and value for their money, and they literally had the institutional power to enforce it. And if the city of Bologna, or even the professors, tried to push back and exploit them, well, the students had the ultimate nuclear option, the town and gown strike. The student guild would literally pack up all their things and migrate the entire university to a neighboring town. Because the local economy relied so heavily on the massive influx of student wealth, this threat of a strike would absolutely devastate Bologna's economy. It effectively forced the city and the faculty right back to the negotiating table every single time. Section 6. The democratization of law. This radical, bottom-up student movement did a whole lot more than just protect some medieval scholars, though. It actually changed global education and law forever. Because these students demanded such an incredibly rigorous legal education, Bologna ended up standardizing European law. It was here that scholars, known as glossars, developed intense textual analysis methods, literally writing notes and interpretations called glosses right in the margins of these ancient texts. Plus, it provided the entire intellectual foundation for civil law systems across continental Europe. And perhaps most surprisingly for us today, this student-run guild created the exact degree credentials, the bachelor's, the master's, and the doctorate, that we still use worldwide. Which brings us to a rather famous historic motto: Patris ubique pater legumes Bologna mater. That translates to, Peter everywhere is the father of laws, Bologna the mother. As this quote brilliantly illustrates, Bologna's students reclaimed the law from elite isolation. By organizing from the ground up, they made their city the undisputed mother of modern legal learning, proving once and for all that rules and procedures belong to the community, not just a sacred elite. So, all of this leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought. Considering that the very foundation of the university was built as a mechanism for student power, student defense, and student leverage, who really owns higher education today? We've somehow transitioned from a system where students actually hired and fired their own teachers to one where students are often treated merely as consumers of a top-down bureaucracy. It definitely makes you wonder what higher education would look like if we suddenly remembered its radical, student-run roots. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the structures around you.